Welcome to Warminster Connect. My name is Jason Crowley. I'm your host. Joining me today is one of the candidates for Warminster Tax Collector, Eugene Lyall. Gene, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So, Gene, I asked you on the show because, unlike some of the other people running for public office this fall, you really are a newcomer to politics. When you look at everything that's going on politically, everybody fighting, everybody arguing, it takes a lot to want to jump into this arena right now. It's a difficult time. Really drew you to running for tax collector here in Warminster.
Yeah, like you said, I've never been involved in anything political. I've always been a corporate guy. Part of the reason why I wanted to get involved in it, and it's ironic that I'm involved in it now, was I grew up with the Loftuses. I went to school with Bobby's daughter. And when I got my first accounting job, she was the first person that I actually contacted because I had to do an audit of Warminster Township. And I obviously recognized the name. I went out there, I audited all her books, and we just had a great time. She was showing me what she did. She was so proud of everything she was doing. All of her work was just flawless. So it was a good transition for me to start my accounting career with her because her books were flawless. Her accounting was flawless, and she just did a great job. I didn't know anything about how many years you sign up. She said she was going to go for one more term. I never knew that. I never knew when the term was going to end. I didn't know anything about this stuff. And her daughter reached out to me and she said, "Hey, my mom's going to retire." And that kind of got the juices flowing a little bit because I saw how interactive she was with all the residents, and she's making phone calls and they're stopping by her house, and it's just a nice thing to have when you have that personal connection with someone that's working for the township and working for the people of the township. So that kind of fueled the fire, and when I went down my experiences in my resume, every box got checked, and that's when I reached out to the people that I know that are politically affiliated, and they got me involved with Bob Welsh, Bob Guarini, and from the GOP side, and I started having conversations, and that's how it started.
You hit it on a little bit about your experience with accounting and everything. Can you run down what your qualifications are running for tax collector? It's not like a supervisor school board member who could have a varied experience.
Yeah.
With tax collection, you kind of need to know what you're doing going in. So can you tell me a little bit about what you bring to the table?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the financial services industry forever. I almost call it the first part of my career. When the financial crisis hit in 2008, I honestly lost my job. I was working for Bloomberg. I was making great money. I was in management. I thought I was fine until I was told, "Hey, we have no need. Our, expenses, we have to watch the expenses. We have to cut some expenses." And unfortunately, my group was the one that was cut. At the time, thankfully, my wife was working. So I took a couple years off with the severance that I got, and I went back and got a accounting degree from Temple because I always wanted to have that part of it as well. So I had the financial services background and the investment background and stuff like that. And then, I'm going to round it out with some accounting. My thought was I was always going to be able to push a pencil until God knows when, and I could probably find a job easier in accounting because accounting just naturally is a little bit easier to find positions because everybody seems to be hiring accountants. And that's how that started. My first job when I graduated was at Bucks County. And I got a job as an auditor. And the first thing I did was I got handed a list of tax collectors and district courts that I needed to audit in Bucks County. And the list was about 30 to 35 people, and one of those was Bobby Loftus. And that's how I started getting into it. And as an auditor, if anybody's ever been associated with auditing, as an auditor, you have to walk in the door knowing everything they know because you're going to tell them what they're doing wrong. potentially. So you have to do a lot of homework. You have to do a lot of accounting. You have to do a lot of reconciliations. It's well beyond taking a check and forwarding it to the school or something like that. There's a lot of stuff involved in the background that the residents probably have no idea that goes on. So you really do need a lot of accounting expertise, and you really need to be diligent, and you really need to be detailed.
So, you have the background there. What's your experience living in Warminster? How long have you lived here? What are your thoughts on the community?
I moved here. My mom's original marriage broke when I was about 4, and she met a guy up here, and we moved here probably when I was about 6, 7, somewhere like that. And I've been here. I lived off of Hemlock Road. I went to Nativity. I went to Wood. I stayed here for the longest time. I did have a 10-year stint where when I worked for Bloomberg, I wanted to cut the commute. So to cut the commute, the best way I knew how to do it was basically just go halfway in between, where my son was at the time and where my work was. So what I did was I settled in Doylestown, and I was there for about 10 to 12 years. And then I moved back. I've been here ever since. I now have 2 younger boys that are in McDonald, and I actually missed it. People rave about Doylestown. I never used anything out there. It wasn't me. I never felt comfortable. All I did was work. So it wasn't it wasn't something that I really took advantage of the scene up there. And now I live in the Speedway with my family. I got, the 2 young boys, and I'm more than happy to be back.
So, talking to you, counting and numbers isn't the only thing you're interested in. You're very involved in baseball. Is that correct?
Very,
Tell me a little
very
bit about
involved.
your involvement in youth baseball.
I was lucky to have 3 boys. I say lucky because I don't think I would know what to do with girls. I really don't. I had a brother. My mom was a boy mom, and my wife is a boy mom, and we are constantly up at the field in Hepro Little League. As anybody has ever gotten involved in volunteering, there always seems to be a small amount of people that do everything. I'm one of those people. So I've built some great relationships up there. They let me put my signs on their property. I basically help run the snack stand when other people aren't there. I coach the regular teams and the travel teams. And I'm just blessed that my boys are active in sports, and I just go along with it, and I'm going with the flow. And I do a lot of work hours, man hours up there.
So, you've got baseball, you've got your career, you have this campaign. I know that it's difficult to juggle all of these things at once. I did it myself many moons ago. When you're out knocking doors and talking to people, what kind of feedback are you getting? What kind of reception are you getting at the doors? Because when I used to do it, it was never my favorite activity of campaigning. But most often, many people were very happy to speak to me, and most were not shy about sharing their opinions. What have you been hearing and seeing when you're out campaigning?
Yeah, well, my strategy, obviously in the primary, I couldn't get out much. That was in the heart of our baseball season. Unfortunately, I didn't have the hours to go and meet residents, knock on doors, and shake hands. Since since our baseball season has calmed down, soccer season has started, but it's still not a whole lot of time. I have a lot of time now to do it. My experience has been great. I don't talk as a Republican. I don't talk about the person that's doing the job right now and she can't do it. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just talking to the people that are out there that are raking leaves, that are having to catch their kids, stuff like that. Not really knocking on the doors that don't look inviting. I'm looking at, you know, walking around neighborhoods and saying, hey, do you guys vote in the municipal elections? And if you do, give me a shot. And then I give them my business card, and then we just start talking about somebody that I may know. Oh, I've seen you at Giuseppe's before, or, I've seen you at Hepro Little League. Those are the conversations that I'm personally having, because I feel like I know a lot of people in Warminster or know somebody that knows somebody in Warminster. My stepdad was really, really connected with all of Warminster. Everyone knows I know Bernie O'Neill. I'm associated with him. So the conversations aren't really about me being a tax collector. It's almost like, hey, you know the guys that own Reese's? Yes, I do. I went to school with them, and it really doesn't have anything to do with anything political right now. It's just having conversations and say, hey, by the way, I'm running for tax collector. Here's my credentials. If you could vote for me, that'd be great.
So you're out there, you're talking to folks, you're just sort of shooting the you know what with them, and you're avoiding negativeness, which I agree. I think obviously there's negativeness in politics and in ads and mailers and things. I don't think it works as well when you're talking to somebody one on one. If you're out there, taking pot shots at your opponents. So I commend you for taking the high road on that. However, if you were talking to a voter right now and the voter said, why vote Eugene Lyall for tax collector? What would be your elevator pitch to say why I would be a good tax collector? Forget your opponent, forget Republican,
Yeah.
Democrat. Why is Gene Lyle the person to assume that role?
Yeah. I mean, it just all comes down to accounting, and it comes down to, the details and, the expertise of that. If you don't have that, I have a hard time trusting, what you're doing with all this money and, the documentation. You have to be super on top of your game. And if anybody knows an accountant, they know they are super detailed. And I am, uh, I'm also having conversations which are strange that I'm a taxpayer and the tax collector's not. Like that blows people away because you don't have to reside in Warminster to be the tax collector, but apparently you don't have to pay property taxes to be the tax collector. That's blowing people away. And you know, to have someone with the financial background, the financial services background of 30 years, and now I'm an accountant, so I have every aspect of financial services behind me. It's invaluable when you're going through all these accounts and reconciling things, putting things on the lien list, coming up with estimates to give the school board of what might come in next month, which I did at Centennial after I left Bucks County. I also tracked everything that Bobby Loftus did and gave them the information to use at the school board meetings because they were obviously looking for money and looking for funding that's coming in or could potentially come in. And you have to track all that stuff. I would just trust an accountant just because I am an accountant. I would trust an accountant more with that information than anybody.
Wanted to switch focus just really quickly. It's unusual to see individuals in their early to mid career running for local offices just because of the time commitment. The time commitment, usually in the middle of career, raising kids. How has your family taken to the campaign? What's the experience been like for them?
I think I think they're, honestly, and not to pat myself on the back, but I think my family's in awe of how hard I can work. Really. I mean, I have a full-time job. I'm a controller, a head accountant at a Warminster company off of Lewis Drive. I go there at 7:30 in the morning. I get off at 5. I do all my campaign stuff afterwards. It's one of those things where I just got the work ethic from my stepfather and my mother, who's always owned businesses in the area. And I'm just trying to tirelessly work because I think if I sit down, you know, I'll get old and, I have 2 young boys that I have to keep up with over here. So, there is no rest, and it's just the way I've always been just because I grew up like that.
Well, Gene, I appreciate your time tonight and you sharing about yourself and your family and your experience with us. Is there anything you'd like to say to the any voters who might be listening before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, like you said, I've taken this whole role as a tax collector as a non-political thing. I know my values and how I run my household, but ultimately I just want to work for the Warminster community and continue the work that Bobby Loftus did because this is a personal thing for me. Like I said, she was as diligent as as anybody. She was as detailed as anybody, and she's as sweet as anybody. If I can take and do 75% of what she did, Warminster will be in better shape.
And thank you so much for your candidness. Thank you for your time. I wish you and your family all the best moving forward,
Thank you.
and we'll see how it shakes out this fall.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.